heavy short, we start measuring the halfback trade from the bottom print price. If I measure the halfback trade from the bottom print price, does everybody see where the dealers must try and get flat or long the marketplace? Right there. And what happened at that price? Massive, massive, massive volumes. And does everybody see the dealers getting long at that price? Bearing in mind we already had a big buy trade there. Does everybody see the dealers clearing and getting positioned for that trade? Sure. And there's the break higher, guys. So we already knew about this level, didn't we? We already knew what was going to happen at this level because we understand the concept of toxic behavior, and we also understand the concept of dealer longs and dealer shorts based on these stories. Now, obviously, bearing in mind that the bracket that was formed from here to here, that bracket there also came from below into this area here. And obviously, when it breaks above, we understand a little bit more. Now, that squaring there means that that's almost a reset for me. Okay, so that squaring there means it's a reset. So that's not really the bracket that I'm interested in. The bracket that I'm more interested in is probably this one here. Now, why is that bracket interesting? Well, because obviously, as the price breaks north here, as we moved into that bracket from below, my thought in this would be that the dealers are in quite a heavy short position again when it breaks higher. So if that's the case, this is the price I want to try and measure from here. So where is the big trade narrative for the dealers? Well, unless they get some huge volume on this uptick, the trade narrative for the dealers would obviously be that there is going to be a very large buy trade here at 106.80s, 106.90s. So we already know there's going to be a big dealer buy at 106.80s, 90s if the price stalls at this top edge here. But obviously it might be a lot higher than that because of perhaps the increase in volume on these candles here, which would obviously mean that we could move this up a little bit. And we already did another arithmetic exercise this morning in class that showed that usually the dealers can actually get square around about 109s. We did this arithmetic exercise this morning around about 109s. So we would expect the dealers to be able to get flat around about that price there. And that's something that we just understand and we recognize it if the volume increases into those higher prints. So obviously, again, we can go back and we can start benchmarking against some of these ideas. And if we look at something like some of the money flow indicators, you can see the money flow is very bullish there. Money flow was very bullish off of these levels. The money flow was bearish on that one. But it was very bearish on this one. But that's because this is a dealer's buy trade here. Very passive dealer's buy trade. Money flow was very bullish here. Money flow was bullish here. The money flow was again bearish here, which means that looks like a dealer's buy trade. It is what it is. It's just looking at some of these as stories. Some of these as stories. Looking at the narrative behind the M's and the N's, does everybody see why there was perhaps a buyer here? So the Hunter trade was here, of course. And then Hunter could well have been involved in that because the market is still net bullish on that pullback. We can see that this also has some supply demand. This also has some demand here. This has some demand here. The demand here is still very valid. The demand here is still valid. The demand here, we're starting to run out of demand, aren't we? So obviously this move higher, probably a little bit over keen in my world. I would say a little bit over keen. So obviously if it's a little bit over keen, we start thinking about the possibility that there might well be an end of trend for the time being, at least as we drove above that 111 print on the Biden news. And remember, when the news comes out, guys, usually what happens is what? When the news comes out, usually the algorithms are very, very quick to price in a soundbite like this. Usually they're very, very quick to price that soundbite in. So when it's fully priced in, you'll see the dealers coming heavy into the markets, So when I see a big spike in volume like that, on a slightly smaller candle, I now know that that's it priced in. Now as a trader, the news isn't bearish, but as a trader, that's going to be a sell trade. Because obviously what happens is the algorithms buy and it brings in more algorithms that buy, that bring in more algorithms that buy, that bring in more algorithms that buy, that bring in more algorithms that buy. everybody else is locked out of the trade because you're having to chase. If you want to get filled, you're going to have to get filled at a big slippage, right? But when you get a big, massive spike in volume like that at an extended high, massive spike, you can see that's high volume, but that's the breakout trade. That volume's not much bigger. That's big volumes. That is huge volumes. So when you get that huge volume spike there, the market is now overcooked, Sam, absolutely. The market's now overcooked, and that's going to be a fade. It doesn't mean the market's bearish. It just means it's overcooked. The market's actually very bullish. This is real money demand that's going to come in from the Americans. And because of that real money demand, this market is going to be a buy on a pullback narrative. And we've already discussed that idea of pullback narratives into these storylines. Now we can obviously work our way through this process. We can see the majority of the buying came in from that drive. And if that's the case, the halfback trade must be the halfback trade from this bracket level here that we want to just be very, very aware of. And that is almost too good to be true, because it's also a little spring trade, isn't it? So there it is there, guys. There's your possible buy for market bullishness right there. You might already have taken a pop at some buys on this pin rejection here for that buy away from that price. If you did, good stuff. I like your style, guys. I like your style.